Welcome back, wanderer of restless nights. Here inside these quiet walls, we don't tell history the way you learned at school. We tell the history of shadows, of forgotten lives, of footsteps that never made it into the chronicles. Tonight, we're not walking in the footsteps of kings or conquerors. We're moving slowly, softly, into the cracks of time. Into the silent rooms where servants slept on cold stone. Into streets where no songs were written, only echoes of tired footsteps. This is not a story of triumph. It's not a story of glory. It's a story of endurance, of invisible lives, of survival whispered into the night. So settle in. Let the weight of the day drift off your shoulders. Let your breath slow with the crackle of the invisible fire. Dim the lights, close your eyes, and let history wash over you like a cold river, quiet, unseen, endless. This is Sleepy History Club, and tonight we tell the stories of those no one bothered to remember, but they were here, and perhaps in some small, fragile way, they still are. You awaken, not because you have slept enough, but because the stone beneath you has made that decision on your behalf. It is the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and never quite leaves, the kind that gnaws quietly at your flesh, reminding you that comfort is a word reserved for other people, people with names, titles, and something soft under their backs. Your bedding. It is a burlap sack, once used for grain, now repurposed for your sleep, or what passes for it in this world. It smells of damp earth, the sour sweat of the kitchen hearth, and something that might be mold, might be old fat, or might be that rat that never came back from its adventure beneath the straw. You wouldn't dare to check. The scent of the scullery floats thick in the stagnant air. Wood smoke from the night before hangs like a forgotten veil, mingling with the stink of boiled cabbage, old grease-wet wool, and human breath left to ferment inside the stone walls that trap you more effectively than any locked door. Outside, it is still dark. But that means nothing here. Time is a burden you don't carry. Your body responds not to the sun or to joy, but to the crack of the cook's ladle against the table, the bark of her voice echoing through corridors too narrow, too damp, and too eager to keep secrets. You stretch, but the effort punishes you. Your limbs ache from yesterday's chores. Your back screams from a bed that is, in truth, the floor. Your knees creak like poorly made hinges. You are perhaps 14, 15, or maybe 20. Truth be told, you have lost count. Numbers mean nothing when every day repeats itself with cruel precision, each as unforgiving as the last. Beside you, others stir. Faces blank, shadows in the dim light. There are no bedrooms, no privacy, just bodies stacked beside one another in an endless, sweaty, breathing tangle. Family, strangers, mice, fleas, it makes no difference here. You are all equal in the eyes of discomfort, and in the eyes of the nobility, you are invisible. Your tunic, the same you have worn for months without washing, sticks to your skin. It scratches, chafes, suffocates. But you do not complain. Complaining is a luxury for those who matter. You pull your frayed wool blanket tighter around your shoulders. It offers no warmth, only the illusion of it. You try not to shiver, but you fail. The cold wins, as it always does. Somewhere outside, the first bell tolls. It sounds like a funeral. In a way it is. It marks the death of what little peace you pretended to find in the few stolen hours of restless sleep. You rise because you must. Because the scullery must be alive before the nobles stir. Because the fire must be relit. Because you exist to make sure their day begins in comfort, while yours never does. And as you stand, the room spins. Your stomach clenches with emptiness, a hunger that has become so familiar you have given it a name. Companion. It whispers to you always. Hollow promises of bread, of meat, of warmth that never arrive. You rub your eyes with hands cracked from lye, from sand, from endless scrubbing. They look like they belong to someone twice your age. They are swollen, blistered, red with the labor of days past and days yet to come. You do not have time to pity them. They are tools, nothing more. The fire has died. Your first task of the day is to bring it back to life. But the embers are stubborn, and the wood is damp. You kneel beside the hearth, coaxing reluctant sparks from brittle twigs, breathing on them softly, whispering prayers not to God, but to the flame itself, because here the flame is the only God who listens. And as the fire crackles, reluctantly yielding to your persistence, you know it is only the beginning. The castle will awaken soon, and when it does, no one will care that you haven't eaten, that your feet are numb, that your hands are bleeding. No one will notice you at all. You are not a person. You are function, movement, heat, silence. And as the fire grows, casting dancing shadows on the cold stone, you take a deep breath. The smell of smoke and old stew fills your lungs, and you let it fill you, because it is all you will get today. The fire crackles weakly behind you as you step into the cold courtyard, your bare feet meeting flagstones that never quite dry. The stones are slick with last night's drizzle, or perhaps with something else. In the dark, all liquids become mysteries you'd rather not solve. You wince as the sharp edges press into your skin. Your shoes, if you can call them that, disintegrated months ago. The scraps were repurposed for something deemed more important, blocking drafts under the kitchen door. It was a trade you did not choose. Most trades aren't. The night air clings to you, damp and heavy. Fog coils like a lazy predator across the empty yard, curling around the troughs, the carts, the empty barrels waiting for someone like you. Always you. The well is not far. But on mornings like this, it feels as if the earth itself has stretched it farther, deeper, colder. Each step echoes in the stillness, a sound too loud for a servant to make. You flinch anyway, because flinching is as natural to you as breathing. The well looms before you, squat, ancient, yawning. It is not a friend. It is an adversary with a mouth wide and black, ready to swallow your strength one bucket at a time. You grab the yoke, the rough wooden beam worn smooth by the sweat and tears of those who came before you, and settle it on your narrow shoulders. It bites into your collarbone, into flesh already bruised from yesterday's tasks. You lower the rope. It creaks like the castle's old bones. The bucket disappears into the abyss. You wait. Seconds stretch like hours. Finally, the bucket thuds against the surface of the water, that stagnant, sullen liquid that refuses to give itself up easily. You haul. The rope burns your palms. Your back arches against the weight. Muscles strain and protest. Your breath comes in harsh, fogged gasps. The first bucket sloshes, spills, mocks you as you balance it onto the yoke. The water is heavy, thick, as if carrying with it all the invisible burdens of this place. Dirt, disease, the memory of yesterday's sweat, the promise of tomorrow's pain. You stagger forward. By the time you reach the scullery door, the kitchen staff is beginning to trickle in. They step over you, around you, through you, as if you were part of the furniture. An inconvenient mobile fixture that smells of smoke and damp wool. You make no eye contact. They make none back. It is a game you've learned well. To be seen is to be blamed. The cook is already barking orders. Her voice cracks like a whip through the stone halls. Her hair is pulled back in a tight, angry knot. Her ladle, worn from misuse, hangs at her hip like a weapon. She is sweating, and it is not even dawn. You lower the buckets carefully by the hearth. No one thanks you. No one glances your way. You disappear again into the grayness of the morning, blending into the soot-stained walls. But the water is never enough, never will be. There are cauldrons to fill, basins, jugs for the lords who will later complain that the water is tepid or tastes like wood. They will never know you carried it on your back, through the dark, across the yard, with hands raw and blistered. So you return to the well, again and again. Your shoulders scream, your knees wobble, your breath rattles in your chest like an old cart down a broken path. By the fourth trip, Your arms are numb. Your legs tremble with every step. Still, no one notices. You are part of the background, as expected, as intended. An extension of the buckets themselves. Replaceable. Forgettable. And when you finally collapse beside the hearth, clutching your sides, hoping to catch just one stolen breath, the kitchen maid sneers. "You missed a spot," she says, gesturing to a puddle that you did not make but will now have to clean. And you will, because that is the way of things here. To serve, to suffer, to be unseen. You wipe your face on your sleeve, knowing it will leave a smear of ash and sweat. But that is the only luxury you have, a momentary illusion of cleaning yourself with something that, at best, is marginally less filthy than you are. The day has barely begun. The nobles are still asleep, wrapped in furs and dreams you will never have. But you are awake, sore, soaked, and already behind. The cook's ladle slaps the side of the nearest pot, sending a hollow, mocking clang into the kitchen's already suffocating air. That's your cue. No words are needed. No instructions offered. You know your place. And it is hunched over the scullery basin, elbows deep in grease rot and yesterday's regrets. The pots arrive like an invading army. Tall, wide-bellied cauldrons, trenchers, wooden spoons stained dark from years of stew porridge, and whatever else the lords deemed worthy to soil them with, each one heavier than it looks, each one daring you to try and make it clean again, knowing you never truly will. There is no soap. Soap is for nobles, for priests, for sinners seeking to scrub the evidence of their sins away. You get ashes, sand, and if you're lucky, lye, a caustic brew that burns your hands as effectively as it burns the grime from the pots. If you're not lucky, just sand, which grates against your skin with a grinning cruelty, shredding what little softness remains on your fingertips. You kneel on the cold stone floor, your knees sinking into the grit that no one ever bothers to sweep. Why would they? That's your job too. But for now the pots take precedence, always the pots. The water is tepid, flecked with old grease, bits of floating bone, slivers of vegetable, strands of hair. You do not let yourself gag. Gagging is weakness. Weakness is punished. You scrub. And scrub. And scrub. Your knuckles crack and bleed. Your fingers prune into pale, shriveled claws that no longer feel much at all. But still you scrub. Because the cook will inspect each pot with the precision of a lord inspecting his horse, ex-hooves. And if she finds a single speck of fat, a ghost of yesterday's stew, you will be beaten. With the ladle, with her words, with the cold stare of everyone else watching, knowing it is better you than them. Your right hand burns from the lye, a pink rawness that is not quite a wound but is no longer skin either. Your left hand is worse. You have learned to favor your right, because it hurts slightly less, for now. You slap a rat off the edge of the basin with a wooden spoon. It scurries away, squealing indignantly, as if you were the one trespassing. You envy the rat. It is free. It eats when it wants, sleeps where it likes. You scrub. The kitchen is alive now. A roaring, chaotic beast of voices, clanging pans, barking orders, and the never-ending hiss of boiling water. But you are silent, invisible. You do not join the chatter. You are not part of the living. You are part of the scullery. At some point you dare to nibble on the crust of bread you hid in your apron. It is dry as chalk, harder than the stone beneath you. It scratches your throat as you swallow, but it fills a corner of the emptiness gnawing at you from within. You do not savor it. You devour it quickly, like a thief in the night. But still, you are seen. A kitchen maid, smug in her slightly higher status, sneers at you. She whispers in the cook's ear, "And now you are punished, assigned to latrine pot duty for the rest of the week." A punishment disguised as work, or work disguised as punishment. In this place there is no difference, but the pots do not care. They wait, endless, heavy, sticky with yesterday's sins, and you scrub, and scrub, and scrub. You are no longer sure where the pots end and you begin. Your reflection in the grimy water is blurred, warped, alien. You barely recognize yourself. That girl you were once before the scullery claimed you, she is gone. Swallowed by the grease, the steam, the indifference of the castle, no one asks if you are okay, no one ever will. Your tears blend with the sweat on your face, the steam from the pots, the smoke from the hearth, all the same here, all lost in the haze. Your hands are tools, your back is a board, your eyes are blank. You scrub because that is what you do, because it is what you are. And when finally the last pot is deemed passable, you are sent to chop onions, a different kind of punishment. Now you can cry openly, and no one will mock you, because the onions will take the blame. They always do. The kitchen roars now. The cook barks orders sharper than knives. The scullery is ablaze, not just with fire, but with the frantic terror of servants knowing the nobles will soon descend like gods from their stone heavens. You are handed a pitcher, heavy, filled to the brim with watered-down ale. Your arms protest, your back protests louder, but neither gets a vote. It is time to serve, and serving is its own ritual of humiliation. You step carefully into the great hall. Its vastness is suffocating. The tapestries, faded but still grand, depict battles you cannot name and saints you cannot pray to. The air is thick with incense and the musk of power. The nobles are gathered, glorious, golden, wrapped in silks and furs that could feed entire villages for a year. They laugh loudly, with mouths full of meat and arrogance. They sprawl in chairs carved with symbols older than your lineage. Their feet rest on cushions, finer than your bedding. You are the shadow that passes between them, a pitcher with legs. Furniture that moves, nothing more. You do not speak, you do not smile, you do not look them in the eye, never. Nobles do not like to be reminded that servants have faces, or thoughts, or hunger. You move precisely as you were taught. 3 steps forward. Stop, bow slightly. Tilt the pitcher. Pour without splashing. Do not let your hand tremble, though it always does. Retract, repeat. No one thanks you, they do not see you. They see only the ale, the bread, the roasted boar's head that took 6 hours to prepare and will be devoured in minutes by mouths that will never taste what you taste. You hold the pitcher for an hour. Your arms go numb, your fingers cramp into claws. But you do not shift your weight. You do not complain, you do not exist. A nobleman drops a bone at your feet, does not notice, does not care. You kneel to pick it up. It is slimy, still warm. You fight the urge to wipe your hands on your apron. You know better. Your stomach growls so loudly you fear they might hear. They don't. Of course they don't. They are too busy telling stories of hunts you will never join, of lands you will never see, of victories you will never understand. You are invisible until you make a mistake. Then you will be seen, loudly, violently. But for now you remain the silent shadow, the vessel that brings the vessel. You glance down at your reflection in the polished silver trencher. It is not your face. It is a mask. Eyes dulled, lips cracked, cheeks hollow. Who were you before this? You do not remember, you do not want to. The memory might break you, and you cannot afford to break. Not here, not now. The cook's glare pins you from across the room. You pour faster. Not too fast, always the right pace, always the right posture. When the meal is finally over, the nobles recline, sated and drowsy, their bellies full, their hands greasy. You and the others swoop in, swift, silent. The clean-up crew of invisible souls. You scrape bones into buckets. You gather half-eaten pies, chewed grapes, crumbs scattered like insults across the tablecloth. You are not allowed to keep scraps, but you might. Just once, just a crust, just the edge, just enough to keep you standing for another hour, another day. You sweep the floors they trample. You wash the cups they spit into. You remove the evidence of their gluttony with hands that have not tasted what they taste. And when they rise and leave, their laughter lingering like smoke, you stand in their wake, still invisible, still aching, still hungry. You don't remember what you did, maybe nothing, maybe everything, but it doesn't matter because today you are the one chosen to take the blame. It starts with the sound, that wet, sloshing, unmistakable sound of the Lord's hound vomiting in the solar. You weren't there. You have never been allowed there. But it is your fault now, because someone must be blamed. And you are the easiest target. The kitchen maid points at you, smug behind her slightly cleaner apron. She says it was you. She saw you lurking. She did not. But her words are louder than your silence, and the cook listens to her. Not you. You protest. A whisper, a stammer. But the cook's ladle is already raised. It crashes against the table beside you. Not your skin, not yet. The warning is clear. You bow your head, you nod, you accept. Because to fight is worse. To resist is dangerous. To exist is already a crime. You are sent to scrub the solar floor, a room you have never seen, until now. Not from this angle, not on your knees. The floor is slick with bile. The smell is worse. You gag. You swallow it down. You scrub with rags so old they dissolve in your hands. No gloves. Just your skin. Just your shame. You can feel the eyes watching you. The noble servants. The guards. The steward who hovers, sneering as if your presence contaminates the very air. They wrinkle their noses at you. The girl with the hands in the dog's mess. But none of them lift a finger to help. They stand back and judge. You scrub. The stones bite your knees. The rag shreds your skin. The stench clings to your hair, your clothes, your soul. And still, you scrub. No one says thank you. No one acknowledges your work. When you finish, they glare at you for lingering. You are dismissed with a wave, as if you were a fly buzzing too close to the Lord's plate. You shuffle back to the kitchen, eyes down, hands burning, stomach hollow, dignity shredded. But the day continues. It always does. You peel roots. You mop the hall. You haul water. And the whispers follow you. She's the one who made the dog sick. She's the reason the stew smelled odd last night. She's cursed. You are not cursed. You are just present. But in a place like this, that is enough. You learn the lesson fast. The lesson is simple. Do not be noticed. Do not be heard. Do not breathe too loudly. Do not look too long. Do not exist where they can see you. But even that is not enough. Because some days, like today, your mere presence is offense enough. You bite your tongue until you taste iron. You keep your back straight, even as it screams. You smile when the cook glares, though it feels like wearing someone else's face. You carry on, because there is no other choice. Because this is survival. Because this is your life now. Evening falls, not gently, not softly. It slams down like the kitchen doors after the last noble has feasted and retired to their silk-lined chambers. For you, this is the only moment in the day when the kitchen staff eats. Not at a table, not with plates, not with dignity. A single bowl, passed from hand to hand. 5 girls. 1 bowl. No spoons, no warmth. The stew inside is not stew. It is a liquid insult. Water, mostly. Clouded, greasy, flecked with a root that may have once been a turnip, or maybe just a fibrous lump pretending to be food. You do not question it. You dip your fingers in. They come out oily. You slurp. Quietly. Because even here, even now, there is hierarchy. The older girls get the best chunks. The younger, like you, take what's left. A floating barley grain. A piece of something that might be squirrel or rat. Doesn't matter. It is food. You swallow. It burns slightly. Not from heat. There is no heat left in it. but from the ache in your throat that never truly leaves you. The stew tastes like defeat, and ash, and kitchen grime, but it is all you will get. You dare not ask for more. You dare not hold the bowl too long. The girl beside you glares. Her hands are cracked like yours. Her eyes hungrier than yours. You know better than to test her patience. You hand the bowl over. She scrapes the sides with her fingers, licking them with the desperation of someone who remembers a day when she ate better, if such a day ever existed. You sit in silence. The only sound is the slurping, the scraping, the sighs of exhaustion. You do not speak. No one does. What would you say? That the stew is thin, that the bread is a rock, that the chunk of meat you thought was pork might have a tail. It doesn't matter. You eat because it is fuel, not joy, not pleasure, not comfort, just enough to stand, just enough to work until your back bends like a willow in the storm. The bread is worse, a wedge of something so dense, so stale, you could use it as a weapon. It is made of barley, maybe, or sawdust. You gnaw at it. Your gums bleed slightly. You do not stop. There is no butter, no cheese, no fruit, only the gritty, bitter crust. It scratches your throat on the way down. You think of the nobles, upstairs now, lounging, laughing. Bellyfuls of roasted meats, pastries dripping with honey, wine sweeter than anything you've ever known. They sleep with full bellies on feather beds. You sit on the cold kitchen stones, gnawing at a loaf that tastes like punishment. No one talks about the rat you saw near the stew pot earlier. It is understood. It is ignored. What choice do you have? You chew slowly, not because you are savoring it, but because your jaw aches from hours of silence. The act of chewing feels like an indulgence. When the bowl is empty, it is passed back to the kitchen maid. She scrapes the dregs into the slop bucket. For the pigs, even they eat better than you. The cook yells something about cleaning the pots. You rise, knees cracking, stomach heavier now. Not full, never full, just burdened. This is not dinner, this is survival, this is routine. This is how the castle keeps moving. On the hollow, aching bodies of servants who eat what others would not feed their dogs. And tomorrow, it will be the same. The same stew, the same bread, the same silence. Because in this place, hunger is not an emergency. It is the natural order, and you are at the bottom of it. The nobles sleep. Their world fades into candlelight and velvet. Yours does not. For you, night is not rest. It is just the next phase of labor. The dishes remain, piled high, greasy, sharp. They loom over you like monuments to your insignificance. You scrub them with numb hands. Knuckles raw from lye and ash, fingers cracked from cold water and old cuts. The pots are iron, heavy, stubborn. You lift them, balance them, scrape them clean with tools that tear your skin as easily as they tear the crusted stew. No one helps, no one watches. And yet you feel the eyes, from the dark corners, from the rats that scurry along the beams, from the shadows that stretch too long, too wide in the flickering light of the hearth. You are alone. But not. The kitchen is different at night. It breathes, it creaks, it whispers things you do not want to hear. Every spill becomes a threat, every shadow a danger. You know the stories. Servants disappearing into the dark, swallowed by the castle's bowels, never seen again. You tell yourself they are just stories. But you work faster anyway. The floor is slick. You slip once, catch yourself. Lucky this time. No one will come if you fall. No one will care if you don't get up. The cook has gone to her pallet. Snoring already, you envy her. Even as you hate her, you wipe the tables, sweep the ashes, empty the slop. The slop bucket is heavier now. It sloshes with the day's waste, greasy and foul. You carry it outside, past the sleeping guards, past the shuttered windows, into the courtyard where the pigs wait. They squeal in the dark. Their eyes shine like coins in the moonlight. You dump the bucket. They fight over the scraps. You watch them for a moment. Envy them. They eat better than you. You return to the kitchen. Colder now. quieter. Your tasks are not done. The floors need scrubbing. Again. You kneel. Again. The stones cut into your knees. Again. The water bites your skin. Again. You scrub in circles. Endless circles. Your hands move without thought. Your mind drifts into the darkness. You think of nothing, because thinking hurts more than the work. The kitchen is a world of its own now. No sun, no warmth, only smoke, shadows, and the dull ache in your spine. Time loses meaning. Is it midnight? Past midnight? You do not know. You do not care. The only clock is your body, and it tells you, stop. But you cannot. You must not. Because if you leave a speck of grease on a dish, the cook will beat you. If you leave the floor unswept, the steward will notice. And if they notice, they will punish you. So you keep scrubbing, keep sweeping, keep moving. Even when your legs tremble, even when your breath hitches, even when your vision blurs. Sleep is a luxury. Rest is a fantasy. You will not get either. Not yet. Maybe when the cock crows. Maybe when the nobles wake and demand their breakfast. Maybe then, but not now. Now, the night stretches before you. Endless. Like the work, like the hunger, like the ache in your bones that will never leave. And so you work. Because there is nothing else, because this is your life, because in this place the night never truly ends. It just waits. You do not sleep, you collapse. There is a difference. Sleep is a gift, a warm blanket, a soft bed, a room filled with the scent of lavender and honey. You have none of these. Your bed is a corner by the dying hearth. The stones are cold, even when the fire is not. Your blanket is your shift, damp, coarse. It scratches your skin as much as the day's labor. You curl in on yourself, knees to chest, one hand clutched around your stomach, the other still red and raw from scrubbing. You do not dream. Dreaming is a thing for nobles, for those who sleep in feather beds, for those who have the luxury of closing their eyes without fear of waking to a beating. Your sleep is a flicker, a gasp, an accident. Your body demands it, but the floor denies it. Your back screams, your legs cramp, your teeth chatter from the cold. And when you do drift into the haze of exhaustion, your dreams are not of love or hope or anything soft. They are shadows, dark, loud, filled with the cook's voice, the clatter of dishes, the slop bucket spilling over your bare feet. Your dreams are the day replaying itself. Endless, grinding, hopeless. You dream of missing a spot on the floor and the steward catching you. You dream of the cook's ladle striking your knuckles. You dream of the rats, larger than they should be, stealing the last crust from your hand. Your nightmares are just your life, wearing a darker mask. You wake before the roosters because you never truly sleep. The embers are dead. Your limbs are stiff, uncooperative. Your mouth is dry, your stomach hollow. You stretch, you wince, you rise, another day, another cycle. You watch the servants who have learned to dream while awake. They stare at the ceiling when the cook is not looking. They whisper of lands beyond the forest, where the streets are paved with honey. You do not join them, you do not dare. Dreaming is dangerous. It makes you sloppy. It makes you forget your place. And in a castle like this, forgetting your place is fatal. Dreams are for those who have the strength to want more. You have only enough strength to want less pain, less cold, less hunger, less work. You do not want the world. You want 5 minutes where your back does not ache. You want a bowl of stew that tastes of something other than defeat. You want shoes, not new shoes, just shoes. But even these are luxuries you will not have, because here in this castle, the only ones allowed to dream are those who have never scrubbed a trench with their own bloodied hands. The nobles dream of silk and power, of wars won from behind thick stone walls, of golden songs and lovers with delicate hands. You dream only of survival. And even that dream feels foolish on nights like this, because when the day begins again, you will not have time for dreams, only tasks, only pain, only the relentless, merciless routine of life at the bottom. And so you close your eyes, not to dream, but to escape, briefly, until the cook's boot wakes you. Again, and the world returns, louder than before. Morning comes, but it is not the golden, hopeful kind sung about in songs. This is the kind of morning that seeps under the door like cold mist, grey, heavy, unforgiving. You do not wake up. You are pulled up by duty, by fear, by the cook's boot nudging your ribs when she finds you still curled by the hearth. Your limbs scream in protest. You ignore them. Pain is not new, it is not loud anymore, it is just there. Your hands automatically reach for the kindling. The fire has died again. And it is your fault. Always your fault. The floor is colder now, your feet numb. Your breath fogs the air like a ghost. You gather the damp wood, the scraps of straw, the brittle sticks that refuse to catch. You kneel, you coax the flame like a penance, like a confession. The cook does not wait for you to succeed. She is already barking orders. The stew needs to boil, the bread must rise, the nobles will expect their breakfast soon, and you are already behind. You haul the water again, the same path, the same weight, the same pain in your shoulders. Your body moves through it on memory now. Your mind is elsewhere, or maybe nowhere. The yoke digs into your collarbone, the buckets slosh over your legs, the cold water bites your skin. You do not flinch. You do not curse. You do not feel. Feeling is a weakness you cannot afford. The other servants shuffle past you, shadows with hollow faces. No one speaks. Words are precious. Breath is precious. The castle is stirring now. The clatter of boots on stone, the yawn of the gate opening, the sneer of the steward inspecting the kitchen. You shrink into yourself, make yourself small, invisible, furniture with legs. You have a heel of bread hidden again, hard as stone. You gnaw at it between trips to the well, hiding, always hiding, but someone sees you, someone always does, and now the cook's wooden spoon finds the back of your head, again. Your eyes water, not from the pain, from the humiliation, from the futility. There is no justice in this place, only hierarchy. Only pain doled out by those one rung above you to remind you where you belong. You swallow your tears, you swallow your pride, you swallow the bread, dusty, dry. And the morning continues, always continues. The noble's breakfast is served. You carry the platters heavy and hot. Your arms shake, your knees wobble. You stand silently, perfectly still, while they feast on meats and cheeses you have never tasted. They laugh, they gossip, they throw bones to the floor as if you are not there. You are not there, not in their world. You scrape the scraps into the slop bucket. Again, always again. The morning is not a beginning here. It is a punishment. It is the reminder that the night never truly ends. It only changes shape, and you move through it, a ghost in your own life, invisible, disposable. The bread is baked, the stew is stirred, the floors are mopped, the ashes are swept, but the tasks never end. The kitchen is a mouth that never stops demanding more. More water, more labor, more of you, until there is nothing left. And still the morning stretches on, because in this place the sun does not rise for you. It rises for them. You just work in its shadow. The feast is not yours. It never was. It never will be. But you are part of it in a way, the way a platter is part of a meal. Useful, silent, disposable. You stand at the edges of the hall, eyes down, back straight, mouth shut. The nobles enter in a parade of silk and perfume. Their boots echo off the stone walls, announcing their presence like a drum of war. They do not acknowledge you. They do not see you. To them you are part of the architecture, as unnoticed as the soot in the rafters, as disregarded as the rats beneath the table. You hold the platters high, meat roasted until the fat drips onto your arms, bread fresh and steaming, the crust golden and soft. Nothing like the bricks you gnaw in secret. Cheeses pungent and creamy, a world of flavors you will never know. You inhale the scent, but you do not taste, you cannot taste. The cook has warned you, the steward has threatened you. Stealing is punishable by flogging, or worse. And yet, your stomach groans, loud enough that the maid beside you elbows your ribs in warning. Control it, always control it. The nobles laugh, wine flows freely. Mead sloshes from gilded goblets. They toast to wars you will die in but never understand. They boast of lands you will never see. They flirt, their hands brushing beneath the table, their faces flushed with drink and power. You are an audience to their play, a silent witness to their indulgence. They feast not because they are hungry. They feast because they can, because gluttony is their sport, their privilege, their right. You watch as food is wasted, bones tossed aside, half-eaten pies abandoned, trenches overflowing, and when the feast ends, it is you who cleans it, scraping the remnants into the slop bucket, not for you, for the pigs. The pigs eat better than you. At least they get the scraps. You wonder, briefly, what it would be like to sit at that table, to be served instead of serving, to taste instead of laboring over the taste for others. But you do not linger on the thought. Dreaming is dangerous, always dangerous. You wipe the grease from the floor, the wine from the table, the vomit from the steward's boots. You are cleaning a feast you never touched, never will touch. And when the nobles retire to their chambers, heavy and drunk, you remain, alone, exhausted, still hungry. The feast is over, but your work is not, it never is. The kitchen waits, the cook waits, the next meal waits. You are not fed, you are drained, because in this castle, the only thing you are allowed to taste is bitterness. And even that, you swallow quietly, carefully, with your eyes down, because the feast is theirs, and your hunger is invisible. Night falls, but not for you, never for you. For the nobles, the night is velvet and silk, warm fires, soft furs, laughter behind closed doors, dreams sweetened by wine and full bellies. For you, it is stone. It is cold. It is endless. The kitchen is not quiet. It never is. Pots need scrubbing. Pans need scouring. Trenches need emptying. The hearth that kept the nobles warm burns down to angry embers. You cannot let it die, but the wood is gone. So you make do with scraps, with anything that will burn. Old straw, broken stools, your dignity. You scrub, you scrape. Your hands red and raw, the water icy. No gloves. Of course no gloves. Your shift is soaked through, your feet are numb. Your breath curls into the dark rafters, mingling with the rats. They own the night, not you. And when the kitchen is clean, or as clean as it ever gets, your duties are not over. You are sent to the hallways, to the stairs, to the cold corridors that stretch like endless mouths waiting to swallow you. You sweep, you mop, you clean chamber pots. The nobles sleep, you do not. You pace, you wait, you serve. And if the lord stirs and demands wine, you are there. If the lady screams of nightmares and needs comfort, you are there. If the guard finds you slacking, you are punished. No questions. There is no such thing as night for you. Only a darker shade of labor. And when, if, you are finally allowed to lie down by the hearth, the warmth is gone. The stones are cold again. The rats are bold now. They crawl over you, nibble at your crust of bread, sniff at your hair. You close your eyes. But sleep does not come. Your body aches too much. Your mind will not quiet. You think of the stew you never tasted, of the meat you cleaned from the floor, of the bed you will never know, and the fear creeps in, of being replaced, of being forgotten, of being blamed for something you did not do, because here in the dark you are no one, nothing, disposable. Your dreams, when they come, are not dreams at all. They are memories of work, of orders barked, of endless water buckets. And when the church bell tolls in the distance, it is not a mercy, it is a sentence. The day begins again, or did it ever end? In this life, days and nights bleed together, a cycle of labor without relief, without hope. And you rise, because you must, because in this castle, nights are not for rest. They are just another shift in the endless theater of suffering. And so you rise, again, always again. There is no choice. Choice is for those at the top, for those with soft hands and silk pillows. You have no choices, only tasks, endless tasks. You know them by heart. Your body moves before your mind does, because the weight of days has settled deep into your bones, into your breath, into the hollow behind your eyes. Water, fire, bread, scrub, carry, endure. The pattern never changes. Because you never change, you are a cog, a worn, chipped cog in the castle's machine, and the machine does not care if you break, because when you do, and you will, someone else will take your place. Another girl with strong arms and empty eyes, another boy with dreams he never dared to say aloud. They will take your shift. They will sleep by the hearth. They will become invisible too. The castle will not notice, it will go on, always on. And maybe that is the cruelest truth of all, that the walls you clean, the halls you sweep, the banquets you serve, they will endure longer than you, longer than your name, longer than your breath. You will not be remembered, not in tales, not in songs, not even in whispers. You will fade, quietly, like the soot on the stones, like the embers at dawn. And yet, you rise, you endure, not for glory, not for reward, but because you must. Because it is what you were born into. Because survival is not a choice, it is an instinct. A curse, a prayer whispered with cracked lips into the darkness. And as you walk into the courtyard, the sky bruised with the promise of another bitter day, you feel the weight settle on your shoulders once more. Not the weight of water buckets, not the weight of firewood, but the weight of days, stacked on top of each other, without end. You walk, you work, you disappear. Because in the end, the castle remembers only the lords. Never the hands that kept the fires burning, never the feet that scrubbed the stones clean, but you are here, and maybe that's enough, maybe. And now, as if you're still here, quietly breathing with the echoes of forgotten footsteps, perhaps you'd like to wander with us a little longer. Here at Sleepy History Club, we whisper stories into the night, stories of shadows, of silence, of the small, tired souls who carried the world on their invisible shoulders. If these gentle stories brought you a little peace, or simply kept you company in the stillness of the night, you can join our quiet circle. Subscribe, like, but only if it feels right, only if it brings you calm. And if you'd like, leave a message in the dark below. Let me know where you're listening from, what time it is, what your night feels like. I love knowing how far these small, sleepy stories can travel. Until next time, rest well. And remember, the forgotten are never truly gone, not while someone somewhere remembers them.